The spring air in Seoul smelled of cherry blossoms and promise. Doyin Adebayo tightened her grip on her small brown suitcase as she stepped through the front gate of Yonsei University. She dreamed of this moment since she was 16, the first Nigerian exchange student from her department to study in Korea. Her heart beat fast, half from excitement, half from fear that she wouldn't belong. Across the courtyard, banners fluttered, "Welcome freshmen," and laughter filled the open lawn. A stage throbbed with K-pop music, students dancing in blue varsity jackets. Doyin adjusted her glasses, brushing a stray braid behind her ear, and whispered, "You're really here now." On the other side of campus, Cha Junha stepped out of a sleek black car. Phones lifted instantly, girls gasped. The heir to Cha Myri Group. Every move of his trended online. He smiled politely, the mask of charm sliding neatly into place. Inside, he felt empty. Even surrounded by admirers, loneliness hummed louder than the crowd. Meanwhile, Yu Mingyu rushed across, Cincinnati balancing 2 convenience store bags. The dark circles beneath his eyes told stories of endless night shifts. A full scholarship kept him in school, but bills kept him working. "Sleep is for the rich," he muttered, forcing a smile as he slipped into the lecture hall. When Doyin arrived for her first class, every seat was taken except the one beside Mingyu. She bowed quickly and sat. Moments later, Junha entered, late, confident, radiant. The room fell silent. As he slid into the row behind them, the professor walked in, calling roll. Mingyu's head drooped. Junha reached forward to wake him, and splash, his latte spilled down Mingyu's sleeve. Gasps. Doyin instinctively offered her handkerchief. "I'm sorry," Junha stammered, mortified. "It's fine," Mingyu said flatly, blotting his sleeve. After class, Junha chased him down the corridor, offering cash for cleaning. "Keep it," Mingyu replied without slowing. "Not everything is for sale." Junha froze, the words cutting deeper than they should have. That night, neon lights flickered over Hongdae Street as Doyin wandered between food stalls, tasting tteokbokki for the first time. Students laughed, music floated from cafes. Yet somewhere under those same lights, Junha sat alone in a corner booth while his so-called friends ordered bottles at his expense. He stared at the table, thinking of Mingyu's disdain, and wondered why it hurt more than the world's applause. Seoul glittered outside, a city of a million lights and one quiet promise. Before this year ended, their 3 worlds would collide. Welcome to Munlyt Stories, where moonlight meets myth. Love timeless tales? Then hit like, subscribe. Please tell us where you are watching from in the comment, and join the circle. Every story begins with you. The weekend came faster than Doyin expected. Yonsei's freshmen were heading to a retreat in the quiet hills outside Seoul, a university tradition to build unity. For Doyin, it was a chance to breathe beyond the lectures, though her nerves fluttered like the cherry blossoms still clinging to the trees. The bus ride was long and noisy. Students sang, traded snacks, and filmed videos for social media. Doyin sat by the window, earbuds in, watching the city disappear into rolling hills. When she turned, she noticed Yu Mingyu sitting 2 rows ahead, already opening his laptop to study. No laughter, no friends, just quiet focus. She admired that discipline, unaware he'd slept only 2 hours before catching the bus. On the other side of the aisle, Cha Junha was surrounded by people as usual. Girls leaned close, boys joked loudly around him. Still, his eyes kept drifting toward the window, beyond the selfies, beyond the noise. When he caught Doyin's gaze for a second, she looked away quickly, pretending to check her phone. By evening, the group arrived at a lakeside lodge nestled among pine trees. Everyone rushed to pick rooms, and Doyin ended up sharing with 2 other girls, bubbly Ronnie Kong, who was already live-streaming their bunk beds, and soft-spoken Jie, who spent half the night staring at her ex-boyfriend's texts. Doyin unpacked neatly and smiled. "Let's survive this weekend," she said. The girls laughed. The next morning began with a campus cleanup challenge for team points. Doyin was placed in Team 7, to her surprise, alongside Mingyu. His expression didn't change when their names were called, but she noticed a flicker of recognition in his eyes. They worked quietly, collecting bottles and sweeping fallen leaves near the lake. "You don't talk much," she said softly. "I don't have time to," he replied without looking up. "Even to make friends?" He shrugged. "Friends don't pay rent." A few meters away, Junha led another team, joking and posing for photos. When he glanced toward Doyin and saw her laughing faintly at Mingyu's dry reply, something strange twisted in his chest. That night, a bonfire burned bright in the open field. Students roasted marshmallows, sang and shared stories. Doyin sat at the edge, writing notes for an assignment. Junha approached quietly. "You always this serious?" She looked up, startled. "Only when life demands it." He smiled. "Then life must demand a lot." She chuckled, closing her notebook. "Maybe too much." Their moment was brief, interrupted by shouts from across the field. Two drunk boys arguing. One of them shoved Junha. Before Doyin could react, the other swung at him. She stepped forward instinctively, but the blow never landed. Mingyu appeared from nowhere, blocking the hit and knocking the attacker down with a single sharp move. The bonfire hissed as silence fell. For the first time that night, Doyin looked at both men, one bleeding, one breathless, and realized Seoul was going to change all three of them. Morning fog drifted low over the hills as the students packed up to return to Seoul. The night before still lingered in everyone's whispers. How Yu Mingyu had stopped the fight, how Cha Junha had looked shaken instead of proud. For Doyin, the memory burned brighter than the bonfire itself. She found Junha near the lodge veranda, his cheek wrapped in a thin bandage. "You should rest," she said. He smiled faintly. "It looks worse than it is." She hesitated, then offered a small pack of plasters. "For next time, if you plan to keep rescuing drunk friends." He laughed softly. "You're the one who stepped in first. Reckless bravery suits you." As she turned to leave, he called after her. "You never told me your name." "Doyin," she replied, glancing back. "It means sweet, though life hasn't lived up to it yet." He murmured, "It might start now." On the bus ride home, most students slept. Doyin rested her head against the window, watching raindrops slide down the glass. Across the aisle, Mingyu stared at his phone. A message from his younger brother asking if he could send more money. He sighed and replied, "I'll try." His part-time shifts already stretched thin. When he looked up, he saw Doyin smiling faintly in her sleep, and for reasons he couldn't explain, his shoulders relaxed. Back in Seoul, clouds thickened, turning the sky the color of steel. Doyin stepped off the bus, pulling her jacket tighter as rain began to fall. She was halfway across Sinchinaro when a familiar umbrella appeared beside her. Junha. He held it between them, careful to tilt it toward her side. "Seems like Seoul has moods too," he said. "Maybe it's reminding us we survived the first week," she teased. They walked together through puddles, laughter echoing against the wet pavement. At the corner of the dormitory gate, he stopped. "You know that research project you wanted," he said. "The one the secretary assigned to me?" Her eyes widened. "Yes! I'll hand it over tomorrow." She blinked, surprised. "Just like that?" He smiled, rain dripping down his fringe. "Let's call it a friendship contract." Before she could reply, thunder rolled overhead. She ran inside, waving back at him. He stood under the rain long after she disappeared, not sure why her gratitude felt heavier than the storm. Later that night, Mingyu sat alone at the convenience store, still damp from the rain. He scrolled through his messages and froze when he found several unread texts from Doyin days ago, thanking him for helping at the retreat. He hadn't noticed them before. His fingers hovered, then typed slowly, "I didn't mean to ignore you." Somewhere across Sinchin, Doyin's phone buzzed. She smiled at the screen, heart fluttering softly under the hum of Seoul's midnight rain. Monday arrived with cold wind and the smell of wet pavement. Students hurried through the campus courtyard, clutching coffee cups and umbrellas. Doyin stood outside the Underwood Library, scanning the bulletin board for updates. A new announcement glimmered under the rain droplets. Team project assignments, advanced communication studies. Her heart leapt. This was her chance to prove herself. Her excitement faded the moment she read the names. Team 4, Doyin Adebayo, Cha Junha, Yu Mingyu, and 2 other students who rarely attended class. She froze. Junha and Mingyu in the same team? By the time she reached the lecture hall, tension already rippled through the air. Junha leaned against the desk, chatting casually with their lazy teammates, while Mingyu sat in the corner, scrolling through research notes. The difference between them was sunlight and stone. "Let's get started," Doyin said, her voice steady. She had promised herself she would not be intimidated. Junha flashed his easy grin. "Leader Doyin, what's the plan?" "I'm not the leader," she replied quickly. "We all contribute equally." Mingyu didn't look up. "Then start by removing the freeloaders," he said flatly, nodding toward the absent members. The room fell silent. Junha's smile faded slightly. "You could try being less abrasive. And you," Mingyu said, glancing up, "could try being more useful than your family name." The words hit hard. For a second, even Doyin forgot to breathe. After the meeting, she followed Mingyu outside. "Why do you push people away?" she asked. He adjusted his bag. "Because people disappoint you less when you expect nothing from them." Then he walked off, leaving her staring at his retreating figure. That evening, she sat alone in the dorm, trying to piece together research for the team. Ronnie peeked over from her bed. "You're working with both the prince and the robot?" "Girl, that's a drama waiting to happen." Doyin laughed weakly. "It already feels like one." Across town, Junha sat in a dim cafe with his so-called friends, pretending to listen. Their laughter was loud but empty. When one of them joked about Mingyu being the scholarship beggar, Junha's hand tightened around his glass. "Don't call him that," he said sharply. The table went quiet. "He's better than any of you." Without another word, he left, walking into the cold night. Later, near the convenience store, Mingyu locked up after his shift. As he turned, he saw Junha standing there with 2 steaming cups of coffee. "I came to say thanks for saving me that night," Junha said. "And sorry for earlier." Mingyu hesitated, then took the cup. "You really don't give up, do you?" "Not on people who deserve a second chance." For the first time, Mingyu smiled, a faint, reluctant one. But somewhere behind that smile, a rivalry quietly sparked into something deeper, a test of who they truly were. Seoul's skies had been gray for days. Doyin sat near the dorm window, her notes spread across the desk, but her mind was elsewhere, on the uneasy peace between Cha Junha and Yu Mingyu. They worked together now, but the tension felt like lightning waiting to strike. At noon, she met both of them in the study lounge to finalize their project outline. Mingyu arrived first, neat as always, carrying printed research. Junha came 5 minutes later with coffee for everyone. "Peace offering," he said with a grin. Mingyu accepted his cup silently, eyes already fixed on his laptop screen. Doyin broke the silence. "Let's assign tasks. We can't afford delays." "Fine," Junha said. "I'll handle presentation visuals." "Make sure they're not just for show," Mingyu muttered. Junha raised an eyebrow. "You think I only care about looks?" Doyin sighed. "Please, can we just work together for once?" The argument died, but the air stayed heavy. Afterward, they left separately. Doyin lingered behind, exhaling deeply. "Two grown men acting like thunderclouds," she murmured. That evening, rain began again, sharp and restless. Doyin rushed from the library toward her dorm when she noticed a familiar figure under the overpass near Sinchon Station. Junha stood alone, no umbrella, his clothes soaked through. "Junha!" she called, running toward him. "What are you doing out here?" He turned, startled. "Just needed air." His voice cracked around the words. Something in his expression, tired, raw, made her heart tighten. "Come on. You'll get sick." They stopped at a nearby convenience store, buying hot drinks. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly as rain drummed outside. Doyin sat across from him in the corner booth. "You've been off lately. Is it about your family?" He looked up sharply. "How did you?" "You talk in your sleep during lectures," she teased, but her tone was gentle. He stared into his coffee. "My father found out I'm at Yonsei instead of Seoul National. He's furious. Says I'm a disappointment." Doyin's voice softened. "Maybe he just doesn't understand the version of you that wants peace more than perfection." He gave a small laugh. "You talk like someone who's known pain too." She hesitated, glancing at her reflection in the rain-blurred glass. "Maybe I have. Maybe that's why I came to Seoul to start over." For a while they said nothing, just watched the storm. Then Junha reached across the table and placed her forgotten umbrella beside her hand. "Next time, don't run through the rain for anyone," he said quietly. "Not even me." She smiled. "Then stop standing where I can see you." Outside, the rain slowed. The streets shimmered under the neon glow. 2 hearts, 2 secrets, and a friendship growing quietly between the thunder and the calm. The morning after the storm, Seoul sparkled as if the city had been washed clean. Puddles mirrored the bright glass buildings, and sunlight poured over Yonsei University's courtyards. Doyin walked across campus, her umbrella swinging idly at her side. She hadn't seen Cha Junha since last night. Part of her hoped he'd forgotten what he said. Another part wished he hadn't. Inside the lecture hall, she spotted Yu Mingyu already in his seat, scribbling equations. "Morning," she greeted. He glanced up briefly. "Morning. Heard you were out late yesterday." Doyin blinked. "You heard?" Junha came back drenched. The dorm guard was complaining. She chuckled softly. "We just talked." "I'm not judging," he said, turning another page. "But be careful. He lives in a different world. Everyone here lives in their own world, Mingyu." Her words were quiet but firm. "We just meet in the spaces between." When class ended, Junha appeared at the door, freshly dressed, hairstyled, every inch the charming heir again. "Leader Doyin," he teased, "may I escort you to lunch?" Before she could reply, Mingyu stood. "She's already eating with the project team." Junha's smile didn't fade, but his tone sharpened slightly. "Then we'll make it quick." Their eyes met like distant thunderclouds. Doyin sighed inwardly. At lunch, they all sat together for the first time since the retreat. Doyin reviewed presentation slides while Junha leaned closer, pointing out design changes. "Your visuals are stunning," she admitted. "Of course," he said, then caught her teasing look and added softly, "But I'm learning to care about substance too." Mingyu said nothing, but his fork tapped his plate with quiet irritation. When he finally spoke, it was directed at Doyin. "You should focus on your part. Let him handle the easy work." "That's unfair," she said. "He's trying. Trying isn't enough in real life." Junha's voice turned low. "Maybe you've been in real life too long to recognize effort when you see it." The silence that followed was sharp. Doyin dropped her chopsticks. "Stop. Both of you." Her eyes softened. "You're on the same team now. Try being on the same side too." The lunch ended awkwardly, but later that evening, rain clouds returned. Doyin stood at the campus gate, realizing she'd forgotten her umbrella. Suddenly, one opened above her, black, sleek, familiar. Junha smiled faintly. "You keep forgetting this. I was hoping someone would remind me." From behind them, Mingyu's voice cut through the drizzle. "Don't get used to him always being around." Junha extended the umbrella between all three of them, the rain pattering softly on its fabric. "Then let's make a deal," he said. "Whoever holds the umbrella keeps the peace." Doyin laughed, and for the first time, neither man argued. Beneath the soft Seoul rain, the strange trio walked together, one promise, one fragile truce, and one umbrella between them. The weeks that followed blurred into quiet tension and late nights. Between classes, rain showers, and long library sessions, Doyin found herself walking a careful line between Cha Junha's charm and Yu Mingyu's guarded calm. At first, it was simple, just teamwork. But Seoul had a way of turning simple things into something complicated. Their project neared completion, and the three of them spent most evenings in the study lounge. Doyin typed reports, Junha designed visuals, and Mingyu fact-checked everything twice. The glow from their laptops painted tired faces with soft blue light. "Do you ever rest?" Doyin asked one night, glancing at Mingyu's growing stack of notes. He didn't look up. "Rest is expensive." She smiled faintly. "So is loneliness." Across the table, Junha hid a small grin. He loved that she never flinched from Mingyu's sharpness. "You really think he's lonely?" Junha teased. Doyin looked at him. "Aren't we all?" For a moment, even Mingyu paused. The question hung in the air like something fragile and true. Later, as they packed up, Junha offered to walk Doyin back to the dorm. She declined politely. "It's only 5 minutes away." "Still," he said, 5 minutes is enough for trouble to find you." She laughed, waving him off. "You sound like my dad." When she left, Mingyu stood silently by the door. "You like her," he said suddenly. Junha froze. "What makes you think that?" "The way you watch her when she's not looking." Junha gave a faint smile. "Then what about you? You watch her too." Mingyu met his gaze evenly. "I'm not interested in distractions." "Good," Junha said quietly. Because I am. The next morning, Doyin woke to messages from Ronnie. Rumors say you're dating Cha Junha. Is it true? Doyin groaned. Oh, for heaven's sake. By lunch, the whispers had spread across campus. Everywhere she walked, eyes followed. Some envious, some curious. In the cafeteria, she confronted Junha. Did you tell people we're? He looked genuinely surprised. Of course not. Then why does everyone think? Because I keep walking you home, he said with a smirk. Stop joking, she snapped, but her cheeks flushed. Mingyu walked in, just in time to hear her raised voice. So that's how rumors start, he said coldly. Cha Junha and his favorite hobby, attention. Careful, Junha warned, standing up. Not everything revolves around you. Before either could say more, Doyin slammed her tray down. Enough. You both act like rivals in a bad drama. I'm not your prize, and this isn't a competition. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held steady. Your teammates. Act like it. She turned and walked out, leaving silence behind. For the first time, both men looked at each other. Not with anger, but with the uneasy realization that maybe she was right. The next few days at Yonsei were painfully quiet. Doyin avoided the study lounge, working instead from the library's far corner. The whispers on campus had started to fade, but the distance between her and the two boys only grew wider. Each evening, she passed the old clock tower on her way back to the dorm, wondering how something as simple as teamwork had turned into something so tangled. On Thursday afternoon, Professor Park Hygiene called for a progress review. The entire class gathered, projects in hand. Doyin sat near the window, eyes lowered, while Cha Junha entered last, confident as ever but with a hint of fatigue in his smile. Yu Mingyu was already there, quietly reviewing the team's report. The professor scanned their submission and nodded. Your structure is solid, but your data section needs depth. I want more field interviews by next week. Doyin scribbled notes. Junha and Mingyu exchanged a quick glance but said nothing. When class ended, Doyin gathered her things quickly, trying to leave first. Junha caught up outside. Doyin, wait. We should talk. There's nothing to talk about, she said without stopping. Yes, there is, he insisted, stepping in front of her. You're mad at me for something I didn't do. You didn't stop it either, she replied. That's the problem. For a moment, they just stared at each other under the bright Seoul sunlight. He opened his mouth to say more, but Mingyu's voice interrupted. She said she doesn't want to talk. Respect that. Junha turned slowly. You really enjoy showing up at the worst times, don't you? Mingyu's expression stayed calm, but his tone cut deep. And you really enjoyed turning everything into a scene. Students nearby slowed to watch, sensing the tension. Doyin's voice rose sharply. Both of you stop. Her eyes glistened, anger and exhaustion colliding. I'm done being caught between egos. If you want to fight, fight without me. She turned and walked toward the gate, her bag slipping from her shoulder. For a heartbeat, both men reached forward, then froze, watching her disappear into the late afternoon crowd. That night, Rain returned to Seoul. Mingyu worked his night shift in silence, replaying her words. Across the city, Junha sat in his car outside the family mansion, staring at the glowing windows. He no longer felt welcome inside. Both thought of Doyin, her laughter, her stubborn strength, and realized how much space she had taken up in their hearts without trying. Back in her dorm room, Doyin sat by the window, tracing raindrops down the glass. Why can't feelings just be simple? She whispered. Outside, lightning flickered across the Han River skyline, illuminating three young souls learning that hearts never collide quietly. They shatter, softly, under Seoul's endless rain. Saturday morning came quietly, the kind of cold, bright morning that made Seoul's skyline look sharper than usual. Doyin spent it cleaning the dorm room while Ronnie hummed loudly beside her. Bestie, you've been acting like a robot all week, Ronnie said, tossing a pillow playfully. No smiles, no gossip, just cleaning in silence. Doyin laughed weakly. I'm just tired. Lies, Ronnie teased, sitting beside her. It's those two handsome disasters, isn't it? Doyin sighed, sinking into the bed. They're both impossible. Junha hides behind charm. Mingyu hides behind pride. I'm stuck between them like a referee no one asked for. Ronnie grinned. At least your drama has pretty lighting. Across town, Junha drove aimlessly through Gangnam, watching people hurry across crosswalks with umbrellas, even though the sky was clear. Every traffic light reminded him of Doyin's words, "You didn't stop it either." He replayed that moment over and over until frustration forced him to park and walk. He found himself in front of a small church. The doors were open, and music drifted out. Soft piano notes, a hymn about grace. He sat in the back pew, hands folded, wondering when he had last asked for forgiveness for anything. Meanwhile, Yu Mingyu finished a double shift at the convenience store. His manager had left early, and the quiet felt heavier than usual. He leaned against the counter, staring at the rain-streaked window. He remembered Doyin's trembling voice and the look in her eyes when she said, "I'm done being caught between egos." He exhaled, guilt gnawing at him. "I was trying to protect her," he whispered to himself. But maybe she just needed peace. That evening, the campus buzzed with weekend energy. Doyin sat alone in the Underwood library, trying to concentrate on her essay. A shadow fell across her desk. "Junha." "Don't worry," he said softly. "I'm not here to argue." She looked up, wary. "Then why are you here?" "To say I'm sorry." His tone was sincere this time, quiet, stripped of pride. "I shouldn't have let things get that far. You didn't deserve to be embarrassed because of me." Before she could respond, Mingyu appeared from the next aisle, holding a research book. He froze at the sight of them. Doyin turned toward him. "Mingyu, please." "Not again." He shook his head. "No fighting. I came to apologize, too." He looked at Junha. "You were right. I judged too easily." For a moment, the three of them stood between shelves of old books and fluorescent light, all the tension melting into something quieter, understanding. Doyin smiled faintly. "You both are learning. Miracles do happen in Seoul." Junha chuckled. "Then let's start over." Mingyu extended his hand. "For the project, and for peace." Doyin watched them shake hands, the smallest smile curling at her lips. The storm between them hadn't vanished, but maybe, finally, it had passed. Monday dawned soft and golden over Yonsei University. The city seemed calmer after the long stretch of rain, the air light with cherry blossom petals swirling across the main courtyard. For the first time in weeks, Doyin walked to class with a quiet smile on her face. Inside the lecture hall, the team sat together again. The tension that once clung to them like humidity was gone, replaced by something warmer, cautious respect. "Let's finish strong," Doyin said, opening her laptop. "Agreed," Junha replied, sliding her a coffee. Mingyu gave a small nod. "And no more drama." "Promise," she teased. "Cross my academic heart," Junha said, earning an eye roll from Mingyu and a laugh from Doyin. For the first time, they worked in harmony. Junha's creative eye transformed dull charts into elegant visuals. Mingyu's precision sharpened every statistic. Doyin tied it all together with smooth, thoughtful narration. Professor Park passed by their table once, surprised to see them actually cooperating. "Looks like peace has finally found Team 4, she murmured. Later that afternoon, Doyin sat under a ginkgo tree near the library courtyard editing their draft. Junha arrived with 2 ice creams, dropping one in her hand. "You've been typing for hours," he said. "Consider this a reward." She smiled. "You're full of rewards lately." "I'm learning," he said softly, gazing at the sunlight flickering through the leaves. Sometimes, the right people make you want to be better. Before Doyin could reply, Mingyu appeared, holding printouts. "We're approved to present next Monday. I wanted to tell you first." Junha smirked. "So now you share good news?" Mingyu ignored him. "You should both rest. The next week will be tough." They spent the evening reviewing slides at the student cafe near Shinshin Station. Outside, the sky turned the color of honey and silver. Junha cracked jokes. Doyin tried not to laugh too loudly. Mingyu pretended to be annoyed, but there was a faint curve at his lips. For a moment, they weren't competitors or strangers. They were simply 3 young people trying to survive Seoul together. When Doyin finally left for the dorm, she stopped at the top of the steps, looking back at them. "Thank you for trying," she said. Mingyu adjusted his bag. "Trying is easier with you around." Junha grinned. "That's his version of a compliment." She shook her head, smiling as she turned away. Later that night, as Seoul's neon lights flickered over the Han River, Doyin typed a single line into her journal. "Maybe second chances aren't given. Maybe we choose them, one kind act at a time. Across the city, two young men thought of the same girl in the same moment, unaware that their quiet truce had already begun to change them all. The week before presentations arrived like the calm before a storm. The campus was alive with chatter, teams rehearsing in courtyards, printers working overtime, and sleepless students living on instant noodles. Doyin, Junha, and Mingyu met daily in the seminar room, finalizing their slides. Their teamwork had grown smooth, almost effortless. But peace in Seoul never lasted long. That afternoon, Ronnie burst into the room without knocking. Doyin, you need to see this. She held up her phone, her expression pale. A campus gossip page was trending with photos, one of Doyin and Junha walking under the same umbrella, another of her laughing beside Mingyu at the cafe. The caption read, Yonsei's love triangle, exchange student caught between two geniuses. Doyin's heart dropped. Who posted this? Ronnie shrugged helplessly. Anonymous account. But everyone's seen it already. Junha looked furious. People have nothing better to do. Mingyu's jaw tightened. It's careless. Things like this can ruin reputations. Doyin turned to him sharply. You think this is my fault? He hesitated. No. But maybe you should have kept some distance. Junha cut in, his voice rising. She doesn't have to change who she is because of gossip. Their voices echoed off the seminar walls. Doyin slammed her laptop shut. I'm not doing this again, she said, standing. If you both can't act like teammates, then do the presentation without me. She grabbed her bag and left, her footsteps echoing down the empty corridor. The rain began before she reached the dorm. Seoul's sky darkened quickly, clouds rolling in like bruises. She didn't open her umbrella. Instead, she let the rain hit her face, cool and sharp, as if it could wash away the noise. By the time she reached her room, her clothes were soaked. Ronnie rushed to hand her a towel. Ignore them, bestie. You're not what they say. Doyin's voice broke slightly. It's not the gossip that hurts, Ronnie. It's that they believed it could. Meanwhile, Junha stormed into his car, anger and guilt fighting inside him. He knew he couldn't fix everything, but he could find out who started it. Within hours, he traced the account to one of his so-called friends from the business department. Without hesitation, he confronted him behind the campus bar. You think this is funny? Junha hissed. The boy smirked. Relax. It's just a joke. Junha's fist connected before he realized it. Not to me. And not to her. At the same time, Mingyu sat alone at the convenience store, guilt pressing heavy on his chest. He replayed Doyin's hurt face in his mind. For someone who prided himself on logic, he'd been careless with his words. He whispered into the rain outside the glass. I'm sorry. Across Seoul, three hearts wrestle with guilt, pride, and something unspoken, proof that healing sometimes hurts before it begins. Seoul slept under a soft drizzle that night, but Doyin didn't. She lay awake in the dorm, listening to the sound of raindrops against the glass. Her thoughts spun between hurt and exhaustion. Everything she'd worked for, to belong, to be respected, now hung under a rumor she hadn't asked for. When dawn came, she couldn't stay inside. She grabbed her coat and walked out to the university gardens, mist curling over the hedges. The air was sharp with the scent of pine and wet grass. She closed her eyes, whispered a quiet prayer for peace, and breathed deeply. Footsteps crunched behind her. Doyin. She turned. It was Mingyu, holding two hot drinks and looking as though he hadn't slept either. I shouldn't have said what I said yesterday, he began. You've worked harder than anyone here, and I made you feel small. I'm sorry. She studied him for a long moment. You're not used to saying that, are you? He gave a faint smile. Not really. But you make me want to try. Before she could reply, Junha appeared from the other side of the path. He looked bruised, literally. A faint red mark shadowed his cheekbone. What happened to you? Doyin asked. He shrugged, settled something that needed settling. Then more gently, I shouldn't have dragged you into my world. People like attention, and I made you a target. Her heart softened. For all his arrogance, there was sincerity in his tone this time. You didn't drag me anywhere. We all walked into this together. They stood in silence as the first sunlight cut through the fog. The campus glistened, dew clinging to every leaf. Mingyu held out one of the coffee cups to Junha without a word. For the first time, Junha accepted it. Ronnie appeared moments later, jogging toward them with a camera. Hold that pose. 3 emotionally wounded friends bonding at sunrise. It's art. They all groaned, but it broke the tension. Doyin laughed for the first time in days. You're impossible, Ronnie, she said. Ronnie grinned. I call it emotional documentation. As the sun climbed higher, warmth spread slowly through the air. The 4 of them sat together on the stone steps overlooking the Han River view below campus. No one said much. They didn't need to. The silence carried understanding. Mingyu finally spoke, voice low. You know, I think people confuse apology with weakness. But maybe it's strength to admit you care. Junha nodded. Or to admit you were wrong. Doyin smiled faintly. Maybe both. For the first time, the storm that had divided them felt like it had finally passed. What lingered now was calm, a fragile peace built not from perfection, but from honesty. By midweek, peace seemed to have returned to campus, at least on the surface. Doyin was back to attending classes, and the gossip posts had finally died down. But inside, something still weighed on her. She couldn't shake the feeling that things between her, Junha, and Mingyu had changed in ways none of them could name. There was politeness now, yes, but also distance, like 3 instruments trying to find harmony again after a wrong note. That afternoon, Professor Park called the teams for final presentation rehearsals. The seminar room was buzzing with nerves and caffeine. When it was their turn, Doyin's group stepped forward. She began confidently, her voice steady, her slides clean and elegant. Our project explores how isolation impacts motivation among university students in Seoul, she said, and how connection can restore it. Junha handled the visuals with his trademark charm, while Mingyu explained the data with surgical precision. Together, they looked flawless, until Junha's laptop froze mid-slide. The screen turned blue. A few students chuckled. Mingyu frowned. Doyin stepped in instantly, switching to the backup file she'd secretly prepared. Her quick thinking saved them, and the class erupted in quiet applause when they finished. Outside the lecture hall, Junha exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. That was close. Doyin smirked. You're lucky I'm always 1 step ahead. Mingyu added quietly, that's why she's the team's anchor. The words made her pause. Compliments were rare from him. She looked up, meeting his gaze, and for a fleeting second, saw something softer there. Later that evening, the 3 met at a riverside cafe in Mapogu to finalize their report. The Han River shimmered beneath the glass windows, Seoul Tower glowing faintly in the distance. While Junha reviewed slides, Doyin jotted last-minute notes. Mingyu watched her write, fascinated by how her handwriting slanted slightly to the left, neat but full of emotion. You always write as if you're trying to say something deeper, he murmured. She glanced up. Maybe I am. Their eyes lingered a moment too long. Junha cleared his throat. Okay, lovebirds, focus. We've got formatting issues. Doyin laughed awkwardly, and Mingyu looked away, ears turning red. As the night wore on, the cafe lights dimmed. The 3 of them sat in comfortable silence, broken only by the hum of city traffic outside. Somewhere between exhaustion and peace, they realized how far they'd come, from strangers and rivals to something that almost felt like family. When they stepped out, the river breeze was cold but gentle. Doyin closed her eyes for a second, letting it wash over her. She didn't know where things were headed, but for once, that uncertainty felt like freedom. The final presentation day was less than 24 hours away, and Yonsei's campus pulsed with nervous energy. Every hallway buzzed with rehearsals, last-minute edits, and the smell of instant coffee. Doyin sat at a corner table in the student cafe, headphones in, reviewing her speech for the 10th time. Her pen tapped the notebook rhythmically, her lips mouthing each line. The script was perfect, but her chest still carried a weight that words couldn't calm. Across the room, Junha watched her from a distance. He hadn't told her yet, but his father, the chairman of Haesung Group, was arriving at the presentation. A sponsor for the university's innovation fund, his father's approval meant everything and nothing. The thought made Junha's stomach twist. Still thinking about telling her? He turned to see Mingyu, carrying 2 cans of energy drink. She deserves to know, Mingyu said. Junha sighed. She already thinks my life is complicated. I don't want her to see another reason to run. Mingyu's gaze softened. You'd rather let her find out in the worst way? Silence stretched between them. Outside, dusk descended over Seoul, painting the glass walls of a cafe in gold and violet. Later that evening, the team gathered in the empty seminar hall for one last practice. Doyin stood at the podium, while the two boys adjusted slides behind her. Take a deep breath before each paragraph, Mingyu said. Smile when you mention the solutions, Junha added. She looked between them and laughed. You two sound like anxious uncles. Correction, Junha grinned. One anxious uncle, one stern older brother. Mingyu rolled his eyes. Focus! They rehearsed until the lights dimmed automatically, signaling closing time. As they packed up, Doyin turned to the stage, gazing at the empty seats that would be filled by professors, judges, and sponsors the next morning. Do you ever feel like this moment could change everything? She asked quietly. Junha replied first. Every day. I've just learned not to fear it. Mingyu added. Change isn't the problem. Holding on to the wrong people is. Doyin looked between them, two different hearts that had somehow become her anchors in a foreign world. Then promise me one thing, she said. No matter what happens tomorrow, we stay a team. Both nodded, almost in unison. Outside, the campus was silent except for the rustling of trees. The trio walked side by side through the courtyard, their footsteps echoing softly against the stone path. When they reached the crossroads that led to their dorms, they stopped. Get some rest, Mingyu said. Dream of our victory, Junha added. Doyin smiled. You mean dream of your fancy suits and panic faces? They laughed. One last easy laugh before morning would bring change, judgment, and revelation. Above them, Seoul's skyline glittered. The city didn't know it yet, but tomorrow would draw a line none of them could cross back over. The sun rose sharp and clear over Seoul, washing the campus in gold. It was the kind of morning that carried both promise and fear. Doyin stood before the mirror in her dorm room, adjusting the collar of her white blouse for the 5th time. Ronnie whistled from her bed. Bestie, you look like you own the university. Doyin smiled nervously. I just hope I can own my nerves. At Haesung Hall, students and sponsors filled the wide auditorium. The air buzzed with whispers, and the quiet hum of projectors warming up. Judges in tailored suits reviewed clipboards as flashes from the press cameras bounced off glass walls. When Team 4 was called, Doyin led the way. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor. Junha followed, posture composed, though inside his heart pounded. In the front row sat his father, Chairman Cha Sung-ho, expression unreadable behind gold-rimmed glasses. The presentation began smoothly. Doyin spoke first, voice steady. Our project explores how digital communities can reduce emotional isolation among young adults in Korea. She moved between slides gracefully, her tone both academic and human. Mingyu explained the algorithms, calm as always, while Junha handled the closing summary. His speech was confident, almost theatrical, until his eyes met his father's. The older man's expression remained cold. For a heartbeat, Junha forgot his next line. Doyin noticed and stepped in seamlessly. And that, she continued, is where community begins, not with perfection, but with connection. The audience leaned forward, captivated. Applause broke out as the lights brightened. The judges whispered among themselves, nodding in approval. Professor Park smiled proudly from the side. Afterward, in the lobby, congratulations filled the air. Doyin bowed politely as sponsors praised her poise. Junha, meanwhile, stood frozen as his father approached. That was acceptable, Chairman Cha said flatly. At least you didn't embarrass the name. Junha forced a smile. Thank you, father. His father's gaze flicked to Doyin. You're the Nigerian exchange student, yes? You have potential. If you ever need opportunities, contact our HR. The words, though meant as praise, carried a faint chill. Doyin bowed politely. Thank you, sir. After the chairman left, Junha let out a slow breath. Sorry about him. He only speaks in business tone. Doyin smiled gently. It's fine. I'm used to storms wearing suits. Mingyu joined them, holding the printed results. We ranked first. For a moment, everything froze. The stress, the sleepless nights, the tension, all worth it. Doyin laughed and covered her face in disbelief. We did it. Junha raised his hand for a high five. Mingyu, after a hesitant second, joined in. 3 hands met in the air, a fragile truce sealed by victory. Outside, cherry blossoms drifted past the glass doors. Seoul's spring light poured over them, soft and full of new beginnings. The applause faded, but the echoes stayed. That night, Seoul's skyline shimmered brighter than usual, as if celebrating with them, but Doyin felt a quiet ache beneath her joy. The team had won first place, yes, yet something in Junha's eyes during the ceremony had unsettled her. Behind his charming smile was something fragile, almost lonely. After the reception, Mingyu walked Doyin halfway to her dorm. He held 2 cups of warm tea from a vending machine. "You were brilliant today," he said simply. She laughed. "You're saying that because we won. I'm saying that because it's true." His tone was soft, but his gaze lingered too long. Doyin looked away, pretending not to notice. Meanwhile, Junha stood outside Haesung Tower, where his father's car waited. Chairman Cha leaned against the door, scrolling through messages on his phone. "You handled yourself well," he said without looking up. "But you could have mentioned our company during your speech." "It wasn't about you," Junha replied quietly. His father's eyes finally lifted. "Everything you do is about me. Don't forget who gave you your name." The words landed like stones. Junha clenched his jaw. "Then maybe one day, I'll build something that belongs to me." Chairman Cha's expression hardened. "Dreams don't make legacies, son. Obedience does." He got into the car and drove off, leaving Junha standing alone in the reflection of his father's empire, bright lights, tall glass, and no warmth. Later that night, Doyin couldn't sleep. The joy of their victory felt muted, clouded by something she couldn't explain. She put on a hoodie and walked toward the Han River Bridge, where the wind smelled of salt and city smoke. She didn't expect to find Junha there, sitting on the railing with a paper cup of coffee. "I figured I'd find you somewhere near the stars," he said without turning. She smiled faintly. "You look like someone who lost everything, not someone who just won." He chuckled, eyes fixed on the water. "Winning means nothing if you're still fighting ghosts." She stepped closer. "Your father." He nodded. "He sees me as an investment. I just want to be seen as a person." Doyin's voice softened. "Then start by being one. You don't owe anyone your entire self." They stood there quietly, the night wind lifting her braids and his hair in the same rhythm. The city lights glimmered across their faces like scattered diamonds. After a long pause, Junha whispered, "You make Seoul feel less cold." Her chest tightened, but she said nothing. Sometimes silence said everything. As they walked back, the first hints of dawn colored the river in pale gold. Neither knew that this fragile calm would soon shatter, because shadows always return after applause. The next morning, Seoul woke up bright and restless. The university buzzed with congratulations. Team 4 had become a small campus legend. Doyin couldn't walk 10 steps without someone stopping her to say, "You were amazing yesterday." She smiled politely, but her thoughts were elsewhere, on the bridge, on Junha's tired eyes, and on the words he hadn't finished saying. By afternoon, Professor Park invited them to the faculty lounge for a small celebration. Pastries, flowers, and certificates filled the table. Everyone laughed easily, everyone except Junha. He arrived late, in a black jacket, sunglasses still on indoors. "Are you okay?" Doyin whispered when he sat beside her. "Fine," he said, forcing a grin. But she could see the storm behind it. Halfway through the event, Chairman Cha appeared unannounced, followed by reporters. Cameras flashed as he shook Professor Park's hand. "My company will sponsor future student innovators," he announced proudly. "Especially my son, Cha Junha, who represents our family's excellence." Gasps rippled through the room. Doyin's eyes widened, so this was what he hadn't told her. The reporters crowded them, snapping photos. "Smile, Junha," someone called. He hesitated, then obeyed. The flash burned across his face like a mask he could no longer remove. Later, when the crowd dispersed, Doyin found him in the corridor, fists clenched. "You could have told me," she said quietly. "I didn't want you to see me as his son," he muttered. "I wanted you to see me as me." Her voice softened. "You don't have to hide to be seen." Before he could answer, Mingyu approached holding his phone. "The photos are already online," he said grimly. "They're calling you Haesung's heir. And they're calling Doyin the scholarship girl who caught his eye." Doyin froze. What? Junha snatched the phone. The headline read, Corporate Heir's Mysterious Foreign Classmates Sparks Curiosity. Comments poured in, some admiring, some cruel. I'll fix this, Junha said. You can't fix the internet, Mingyu replied sharply. You just gave them more fuel. The tension snapped. Maybe if you didn't act so perfect all the time, we wouldn't be in this mess. Junha shouted. At least I don't hide who I am. Mingyu shot back. Doyin's voice cut through their anger. Enough. This isn't about either of you. It's about how pride keeps ruining everything we build. Her eyes glistened. Can't you both see? We finally made something good, and now you're tearing it apart. Silence filled the corridor. Students passing by slowed to watch. Junha's shoulders dropped. Mingyu looked away. And Doyin, heart pounding, eyes wet, walked out into the cold Seoul air whispering, I didn't come here to survive another storm. She didn't notice Junha call after her, his voice cracking. It was the first time he sounded small, like a boy who had finally realized he could lose everything. For 3 days, Doyin avoided both of them. She went to class early, left late, and spent her evenings at a quiet cafe near Yonsei University, pretending the smell of roasted beans could drown out the noise in her head. Seoul moved on as if nothing had happened, but inside her, everything had shifted. Each time her phone buzzed, she ignored it. Junha's name flashed again and again. Then Mingyu's. She silenced them both. Across town, Junha sat in his car outside the Haesung Tower parking lot, phone in hand, unread messages filling the screen. The press had twisted the story beyond repair. News sites now painted Doyin as a mystery exchange student rumored to influence Haesung's heir. He threw the phone onto the passenger seat and pressed his palms against the steering wheel. I tried to protect her, and I still failed. At that same hour, Mingyu worked an extra shift at the convenience store. He told himself he needed the money, but really he needed the distraction. He replayed the argument in his mind, every word he shouldn't have said. Between pride and guilt, something heavy sat in his chest. When the night manager arrived, he clocked out and walked to the river, the same place Doyin often went when she needed to think. Meanwhile, Doyin stared at the glowing Seoul skyline from her dorm window. Why does doing the right thing always hurt? She whispered. Her reflection in the glass looked distant, foreign, a girl trying to find herself in a world that kept choosing sides for her. The next morning, the university released a public statement denying favoritism. It helped, but the whispers didn't fade. Students still stared when she passed. Some smiled kindly, others didn't bother hiding their curiosity. That afternoon, while crossing the main courtyard, Doyin saw Mingyu waiting by the fountain. He looked nervous, his hands deep in his pockets. I owe you an apology, he said as she approached. You've already said sorry once, she replied quietly. Then let me try again until it matters. His eyes were tired but honest. I shouldn't have judged Junha or you. I was jealous of both of you without realizing it. Doyin sighed, the anger melting into weariness. Jealousy's easy. Forgiveness is harder. He nodded. Then let's start with that. When she turned to leave, she saw Junha across the courtyard. He'd been watching from a distance, expression unreadable. For a moment, their eyes met across the crowd. So many words unsaid passed silently between them, regret, longing, the ache of what pride had broken. Then he turned and walked away. Doyin stood there, her heart caught between two worlds, one she could fix, and one she might never reach again. The air in Seoul carried the smell of spring rain again, heavy with memories. Doyin's days fell into quiet rhythm, class, cafe, library, sleep. On the outside, she looked fine. On the inside, she felt like a book left open to a chapter no one would finish reading. Ronnie noticed it first. Bestie, when was the last time you smiled without pretending? She asked, leaning on the dorm window. Doyin stared at the clouds. Before people decided my life was entertainment. Ronnie shook her head. You can't hide forever. You didn't come all the way to Korea to disappear. That evening, Doyin took a walk through Hongdae Street, its neon lights, buskers, and laughter blending into a song she couldn't feel part of. She stopped by a bookstore cafe where she'd once studied with Junha and Mingyu. The same corner table waited empty. Across the city, Junha met his brother at the family villa. Chairman Cha had left the country for business, and for the first time, silence filled the marble halls. "You really messed up with her," his brother said bluntly. Junha looked out over the balcony. "I know. Then fix it." He gave a bitter smile. "How do you fix something you broke by being yourself?" Mingyu, meanwhile, attended a scholarship dinner hosted by the university. He sat at a table of donors, listening to speeches about future leaders. He kept glancing at the empty seat beside him, the one reserved for Doyin, who never showed up. When the dean mentioned her name, polite applause filled the room, but guilt burned behind his calm expression. Later that night, fate brought the three of them together again by accident. Doyin was leaving the library just as rain began to fall. Her umbrella flipped inside out of the campus gate, and she laughed softly at the irony. That's when she heard footsteps. "Still bad with umbrellas," Junha's voice said behind her. She turned slowly. He stood there, holding a black umbrella, hair damp from the drizzle. Behind him, Mingyu jogged up, breathless. "I was looking for you too," he said. For a moment, none of them spoke. The rain softened around them like background music. "I came to say thank you," Doyin said finally. "For everything. The help, the lessons, the chaos." "That sounds like goodbye," Junha said quietly. "Maybe it is," she replied. "Some storms don't end with rainbows. Some just end." Her words hung in the mist. Mingyu lowered his gaze. Junha's hand tightened on the umbrella handle. When she walked away, neither of them followed. They just stood there, two silhouettes under the same umbrella, watching the girl who had changed everything disappear into the silver soul rain. Sometimes endings don't come with closure, they just come with silence. Weeks passed, and the world kept spinning. Cherry blossoms gave way to summer's green, students traded heavy coats for rolled sleeves, and Seoul's skyline shimmered brighter under long evenings. But for Doyin, time had softened into something gentler, quieter, but not empty. She spent her days at a new internship in Mapogu, translating business proposals for startups that reminded her why she'd come to Korea in the first place. To build, to learn, to belong. The chaos of her first semester felt like another lifetime now, yet every street still whispered names she couldn't quite forget. One Saturday morning, she visited Hanggang Park, notebook in hand. Children flew kites by the water. Couples shared sandwiches on picnic blankets. She sat beneath a willow tree, watching sunlight scatter across the river. For the first time in months, she felt at peace. Then a familiar voice broke through the wind. "You still right by the river," Junha said, stepping closer. His hair was shorter, his clothes simple, no more designer suits, no mask of perfection. "I started at my own company. Small, chaotic, but mine." She smiled. "So you did it." He nodded. "And I came to thank you for teaching me that success means nothing if you can't face your own reflection." They sat for a while, no heavy words, no unspoken pain, just the river and the hum of the city. When he left, he didn't ask for another chance. He just said, "You made Seoul feel like home," and walked away with the ease of someone finally free. As the sun dipped low, Doyin turned another page in her notebook. Footsteps approached again, steady, familiar. "Mingyu, I heard about your internship," he said. "Congratulations." "Thank you," she replied softly. "And you?" "I got accepted into the graduate program I wanted," he said, smiling faintly. "I'm still working nights, but I'm learning to live instead of survive." He handed her a small paper bag. Inside was a journal embossed with her initials. "For your next chapter," he said. Their hands brushed, warm against the cool wind. When he left, Doyin remained by the river, watching two kites rise together before drifting apart across the orange sky. It felt like a quiet metaphor for everything she'd lived through, people meeting, changing, parting, yet still under the same soul sky. She closed her notebook and whispered to the wind. Maybe the point wasn't to keep them. Maybe the point was to become. As dusk fell, city lights shimmered on the Han River, and Doyin stood, shoulders lifted, heart lighter than it had ever been. The girl who once arrived searching for belonging had found something deeper, herself. And somewhere in the city's glow, two young men looked up at the same sky, smiling quietly, grateful for the girl who had taught them both how to heal. Thank you so much for staying with us till the very end of the story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear the lessons you learned and your thoughts on how we can continue improving to give you the very best. Here at Munlyt Stories, every tale is crafted with passion, care, and dedication. Our mission is simple: to entertain, inspire, and connect us all across cultures and hearts. So, keep the conversation alive in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Till next time, we are Munlyt Stories, bringing you amazing tales that touch hearts and spark imaginations. Stay blessed, stay inspired. See you in the next story.